Hey, Shalom, Shalom, Shalom. This is Naaman here. Great Millstone Camp here in DC. Back in another video. First and foremost, call Yahweh, Hashem, Yahushua, Hashem, Hakadosh, and of course, double honors go out to the apostles, bishops, and elders of Great Millstone who deserve double honors. Salutations also go out to the fellow Akim that are out there on the highways and byways. All right. The camps are virtually worldwide at this point. All right. Slacking. All right, pushing the truth across the four corners of the earth. All right, my throat slacking. Aided, of course, by the many videos that go out and assist in waking up the remaining hopefully elect. All right, that's what they're there for. All right, to provide edification for those of our nation. All right. Here's a copyright disclaimer. Under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976, allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statutes that might otherwise be infringing. Nonprofit, educational, personal use tips to balance in favor of fair use. All right, fair use for me, because this square here is getting on my nerves. Slacking. All right, so lo and behold, say it ain't so, America. Say it ain't so. Oh my goodness, veterans go up to the Hill and protest for the war, and you come up with some lame excuse about not being able to protest in the building, and you arrest veterans to include disabled veterans? Say it is. Of course, I'm saying that in mocking fashion because America has always pushed that. Well, we're so proud of our veterans, and they exemplify blah 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 blah. And just like in the 30s, where the veterans protested here in DC, down in the mall, and the police were sent after him. One of them got arrested for their pension. They're protesting. Let me see if I can pull that up real quick. I just thought about that, the similarities. All right, let's see. Veterans protest about how was that worded? I don't think it said pension. I think it was benefits. Let's see. 1930s. Let's see. Slovakia. Yeah, the bonus army. All right. It was 1932. Yeah, okay. See, I can just read it from here. It says the bonus, well, here it is. There's the encampment, all right, here in D.C., July 28th, 1932, 93 years ago, yeah. At this point here where you're seeing the picture, this was it was a build-up to this point. It says the bonus army, a group of 43,000 demonstrators, 17,000 veterans of U.S. involvement in World War I, their families and affiliated groups gathered in Washington, D.C. in mid-1932 to demand early cash redemption of their service bonus certificates. Organizers called the demonstrators the Bonus Expeditionary Force to echo the name of World War I's American Expeditionary Forces, all right, while the media referred to them as the Bonus Army or as Bonus Marchers. The demonstrators were led by Walter W. Waters, a former sergeant Many of the war veterans had been out of work during the early years of the Great Depression. The World War Adjusted Compensation Act of 1924 had awarded all U.S. World War I veterans bonuses in the form of certificates which they could not redeem until 1945. What the fuck? Wait a minute, so you gotta wait 21 years? Each certificate issued to a qualified veteran soldier, so you know this wasn't talking about Jake, bore a face value equal to the soldier's promised payment with compound interest. The principal demand of the bonus army was the immediate cash payment of their certificates. All right, remember, this is the Depression. All right, so it just goes to show you, hey, I think they really cared about all of this. And someone made a comment about, they're telling people, don't enlist in the military, in the United States military. Don't do it. Veterans are telling, let's see, here it is. Disabled veterans arrested at Capitol during anti-war protests. This is Monday, of course. All right. Veterans and military family members protesting the president's war in Iran were arrested inside the Capitol on Monday, bringing one of the country's most symbolically powerful anti-war constituencies directly into the legislative complex as public skepticism over the conflict continues to deepen. You think this is really going to matter? They continually, daily as a matter of fact, show you how much they give a fuck about you. But you got these diehard Edomites saying, "No, this can't be my country. This can't be a state of America." What's going on here? All right, photos and videos from the scene show police handcuffing demonstrators as they held symbolic burial flags and staged a protest against the war inside the Cannon Rotunda, right in the Cannon building there, on April 20th. It says the protesters weren't professional activists or the usual Washington coalition crowd, but former members of the U.S. Armed Forces, including disabled veterans and military family members, with a simple and devastating message. They know what war costs because they have already paid for it. Some of them were on crutches and others in wheelchairs. They still got cuffed. All right, with those flex cuffs, those plastic motherfuckers. All right. Some carried U.S. flags of fallen soldiers. Some of the demonstrators identified themselves as members of About-Face Veterans, an anti-war veterans group that has spent years organizing against what it calls permanent war and militarized politics at home, and the protest itself was named Veterans Against Fascism. All right. See, this is part of the agenda to always keep you in stress. All right. I forget the exact terminology, but I think you get the point. All right. Monday's demonstration was not an isolated eruption. It fits into a broader campaign by anti-war veterans who argue that militarism abroad and democratic erosion at home are linked. For the group and its allies, Iran is the immediate flashpoint, but the larger target is the political culture that keeps producing new wars while presenting them as strength. Protesters align with the U.S. public skepticism about the war. All right. It says the university found in March that 53% of voters opposed the U.S. military action against Iran, while 74% opposed sending ground troops. The polling analyst Tim Malloy said voters were unenthusiastic about the air attack and overwhelmingly against the ground war. Yeah, especially when you consider that they bombed, elaborate paintings of helicopters and, and jets. I'm still laughing at that shit, boy. Pew Research Center found that 61% of Americans disapprove of Trump's handling of the conflict. Do they realize that it's not really up to Trump? All right, so you can read the rest of this for yourself, but I'm just going to go into this video. In fact, this is from um, Lisa Cabrera. She did a video on this: military veterans protest Iran war at U.S. Capitol. I hope she doesn't mind. I'm going to use footage, about half of her video here. And as you can see, this is from TikTok. Well, let's just go ahead. Fair use, fair use, fair use.
To get arrested at the Capitol yesterday. And I say chose to get arrested yesterday because I think it's important for people to understand that all of these veterans knew they were going to get arrested for doing what they were doing before they showed up. Staging a protest inside the Capitol is different than staging a protest outside because there's different rules. When you're inside the Capitol, you're allowed to be there. You're allowed to assemble. You're allowed to knock on the doors of your senators and representatives' offices and try to speak to them. But there are some rules, and some of those rules include you're not allowed to have signs and flags like they do in the picture, and you're not allowed to chant, which they were doing in the picture. And that's the rule. Usually, if you get arrested for doing those things at the Capitol, it's called incommoding. It's not
But
a huge.
still, you have to realize that the optics of this are horrendous. All right. Regardless of your rules, I mean, nobody's being violent like, January 6th of 2021.
Penalty that comes along with it, but it is the rule. The Capitol Police have to give you 3 warnings before they arrest you, and they are pretty good about following that. I haven't been arrested at the Capitol, but I have gotten a warning. So I want people to understand that they chose to get arrested. And that's not to lighten the impact. That's not to say that they were staging a spectacle and they did it on purpose and they knew what they were doing. So it's not a big deal. It's a bigger deal. It was so important to these veterans to make a stand against the war that they were willing to get arrested. And I also think it's important for people to know that they willingly got arrested because I don't want people to be afraid to show up at protests. May Day is coming up.
Do you know the average veteran today is telling many of these young people to stay away from the military? That says a lot right there. That says a lot. They're telling them to stay away from the U.S. because that's how bad it is. That is a shame. But after looking at this, I think a lot of people are going to be convinced to stay away from the military. That's all this is going to do.
Division, division, and more division. This is what it's shaping up. All right. Oh, and it's just starting to get warm. All right, here we have these freakish, a few days it's 90 and then it's down in the 50s, and at night it gets down in the 30s. I mean, but yeah, we can tell like each time on the way to camp here, traffic is just horrendous. It doesn't take much here in DC. But in any case, yeah, it's gonna get worse here. I was thinking of when I say division, of course, Mark 3rd chapter, from 24 on down. All right. Yeah, this is what it's coming to, and also 2nd Ezra 15 chapter. All right, the build up here, they're getting sick of these fake ass politicians. All right, and that's shaping up for that. In fact, let's get it. That's what we're here for. Okay. Let me get the switch up here. All right. All right. This is what it's, like I said, you're viewing it live and in living color. This is what Ezra said. All right. It says, woe to the world and them that dwell therein. Very bad times, evil times are coming. With the sword, and their destruction draweth nigh. And the one people shall stand up and fight against another, and swords in their hands. For there shall be sedition. All right. Hold on. To him. For there shall be sedition among men. Why? Well, let's get another video. Let's go to 2 Peter 2. And because here it is, these politicians, all right, and you have to know that this original scriptures here is talking about the false prophets and such, but your politicians and representatives, don't they feel that they fall right in there? Because these are the people that, for the most part, your celebrities, all that too, people virtually worship and trust, not so much now, but hey, even though you still got those amongst Jake, you know, basically worship these people, all right, and you know, hang on to every word, all right. It says 2 Peter 2:19, while they, these politicians, promise them liberty, they themselves are the servants of corruption, as again the Epstein files has proved. For of whom a man is overcome, of the same is he brought in bondage. All right, a foreign country, and we know who they are, despite all the Russia Gate and all this other shit. We know who the real culprits are when it comes to this. The biggest, most powerful lobby here in DC is AIPAC, and what other names it goes by, because that's not the only name. All right. And that's why these politicians now, when they say, you know, when they're asked a question, are you taking money from AIPAC, they can always say no. And that would be true, but let's just say, are you taking money from Israeli lobbies? Period. I mean, plural. Then you more or less got it. But they can say, no, I'm not taking from AIPAC, and be right. Because there's another Israeli lobby that's got their hooks in it. Again, this is 2 Peter 2:19. While they promise them liberty, they themselves are the servants of corruption. For of whom a man is overcome, of the same is he brought in bondage. Yeah, they promising you all kinds of good shit. Oh man. All right, let's go back to let's get that Mark 3 real quick. All right, Mark 3, and real quick before I go to 2nd Ezra. All right, this right here is the only thing that you cannot. All right, this is it. Blasphemy against the Holy Spirit. You're done. All right. Mark 3:23. Called his disciples to him. All right, and said unto them in parables, how can Satan cast out Satan? Verse 24. And if a kingdom be divided against itself, that kingdom cannot stand. This is where we are today in America. All right, and everybody's coming against America. America, you have to know, is being isolated. People are tired of the bullshit. 25, and if a house be divided against itself, that house cannot stand. And if Satan rise up against Satan, and if Satan, rise up against himself and be divided, he cannot stand but hath an end. And you're seeing that. Oh, are you seeing? All right. This place is circling the drain. And in cases like that, you have an increase in velocity as you're seeing that water or liquid swirl. It's getting faster and faster and faster. All right. Verse 15 again. For the sword and their destruction draweth nigh, and one people shall stand up and fight against another, and swords in their hands. All right. Modern day sword. And it's really big, especially here in America, is the gun. All right. 16, for there shall be sedition among men, and we just read why. All right, and invading one another, they shall not regard their kings nor princes. Uh-oh. And the course of their actions shall stand in their power. They're tired of the lies, tired of being neglected. But hey, Jake has been that way for longer. Nobody felt sorry for us. How about that? Back to the video.
That's the next huge national protest that we're planning and organizing for. We want people staying home from work, staying home from school, no shopping, and out in the streets making noise. But I don't want people thinking that just by showing up to a peaceful protest outside, you're at risk of getting arrested the way these veterans did. These veterans broke specific rules. They ignored warnings, and they did it to make a stand because it was important to them.
Something too, because you got rules.
But it was a predictable course of events. I'm sure that they highly organized this action, that they had legal representatives that planned to, process them and get them out. They knew it was going to happen going in and prepared accordingly. You don't have to be terrified of showing up at a peaceful protest just because they were arrested at the Capitol. Getting arrested at the Capitol for chanting and holding signs is business as usual. That's not something new under the Trump regime, as terrifying as they are. And I just wanted people to know that.
Those were U.S. military veterans protesting Trump's ridiculous war against Iran, getting arrested at the Capitol complex today, including this man right here who's a disabled veteran. Hit the heart button if you support our veterans.
Yesterday on Capitol Hill, dozens of veterans were arrested inside the Cannon House office building after staging a protest against what they call another forever war. Now, around 66 people face charges for protesting inside a congressional building. But the message from those veterans is clear. They're calling this one of the largest acts of civil disobedience since the Iraq War, linking U.S. military action abroad to consequences back home. Many say that they were willing to be arrested, demanding answers directly from Mike Johnson himself. Now the question is whether anyone inside the Capitol is actually listening, or if they actually care about the voices of those who fight America's wars.
They're probably in their offices. I don't want to hear that shit. I'm going to keep it down. I'm talking to my APEC rep.
Hundreds of veterans took over the U.S. Capitol Rotunda today in an act of civil disobedience to protest the war with Iran. Capitol Police came in and arrested them, and there was no conflict in that. The veterans willingly put their hands out to allow them to be cuffed and escorted off the premises and face whatever charges that they face. They put out signs saying "End the war with Iran," other signs saying "We cannot afford another war," "End this war." This is something that these veterans fought for, and they deserve to be heard, as all American people deserve to be heard. Nobody wants this war, other than the people profiting from it and attempting to hide their actions behind it. Nobody. Not a single person in this country deep down actively supports it unless they believe they are profiting in some way. Now, I fully support these veterans. I fully support the honorable way that they conducted themselves, knowing the outcome for each and every one of those hundreds. They went in there, and once again, they put themselves and their lives and whatever they have going on with them on the line to speak out and to fight against tyranny, this time at home.
Y'all, there was a report that came out. They had to rescue two pilots where their jets were shot down over Iran, and they were able to get them. Do you know they said they had to shut Donald Trump out of those meetings when they made the plans to go into Iran to rescue those pilots?
Yeah, I like to see. There's no evidence that there were any of pilots even existed, but that was a failed mission to try to get the uranium. But in any case, here's something else I wanted to show you about this. Thank you, Mrs. Cabrera. Are care packages reaching U.S. sailors in the Middle East during mail suspension? This is Tuesday, and it says care packages are not being reliably delivered to many U.S. service members in the Middle East right now. The U.S. This is in lieu of reports saying that, and I've seen the picture. I just couldn't bring it up on this. One of the soldiers on board, one of the Marines, I believe it was, photographed, because now they're saying also that getting internet services, iffy. It's in and out, but yeah, you're at war. What do you expect? And do you trust anything this administration says at this point? Probably not. But in any case, he showed the meal that he got, which was a scoop. Those ice cream scoopers that they use for scooping out portions. Yeah, he got a scoop of mystery meat and a tortilla. That was it. Anyway, the U.S. Postal Service has indefinitely suspended deliveries to roughly 24 military zip codes in the region, and multiple family members and local organizers report parcels sitting in limbo. Even as sailors aboard ships near Iran complain of rationing and low-quality meals. It says what exactly was suspended and why. Postal service to some Middle Eastern military addresses was halted in early April amid what the Army described as airspace closures and other logistical impacts from the ongoing conflict. A suspension that the U.S. Postal Service and Military Postal Service Agency have described as temporary and subject to change based on operational conditions. Evidence that care packages are getting stuck. Numerous human stories and reporting say families spent hundreds or thousands of dollars on packages that never arrived. USA Today and regional outlets relayed accounts of a Texas mother who put more than $2,000 into parcels that remain undelivered and community drives whose boxes were forwarded by the suspension. how shipping and carrier networks further complicate delivery. Beyond the United States Postal Service suspensions, commercial logistics have also been disrupted. Major freight and courier networks announced route suspensions or limited services across Gulf ports and parts of the Arabian Gulf. And global carriers have posted advisories that some Middle East deliveries remain unreliable or paused, increasing transit uncertainty for any non-military shippers. Official caveats in the operational reality aboard ships. The Military Postal Service and USPS say packages accepted before a zip code suspension are held and queued for deliveries once service resumes, and automated systems are supposed to prevent new items from being accepted for suspended codes. But that policy does not solve the current problem for parcels already in the pipeline or for sailors at sea who rely on timely resupply. Conflicting accounts, family reports versus official reassurances. There is a tension in the reporting families, and some sailors describe rationing and meals described as tasteless or insufficient, while some military messaging cited by commentators insists food service continues and ships remain mission capable. Yeah, that's, so-called competent line. All right, it says the available sources documents both the family complaints and the existence of official operational statements, leaving a factual gap over the scope and duration of actual shortages. The practical takeaway: reliability right now is low condition. Given an indefinite USPS suspension affecting 27 to 28 military zip codes, documented family reports of undelivered packages, and parallel disruptions in commercial shipping lanes, care packages cannot be counted on as a reliable resupply channel for many service members in the Middle East. At present, exceptions exist where mail was accepted before suspensions or where a unit's location or logistics differ, but those are the exception rather than the dependable rule based on current reporting. What's unknown and why it matters. Reporting does not provide a ship-by-ship log of which vessels or units remain reachable by mail, or a comprehensive inventory of packages already held for later delivery. So precise estimates of how many sailors will eventually receive stalled care packages or when are not available in the sources review. Now you have to understand that, my goodness, how this is going to affect morale. You've already got, all right, well, at least we know TSA, I don't know if they, money was pulled from something else, but the thing is, this is the fucked up part. They can always magically find money for what they want to do. I hope you've noticed that. So knowing that and having seen that, what is one to think? Here it is, you got people out there in harm's way. And by all accounts, what we're reading here, and what we've seen in the video, the people here, former veterans, hey, they're letting you know that there are people more important than you. Yeah. And they have more of a voice in the ongoings, all right, of your military and your policy. And I'm talking about that rogue nation of the great pretenders themselves, the Israelis. Yeah. But see, this is a good thing. I'm so very happy because all the decades that Jake really just wanted to be left alone and, be able to fend for themselves and, basically what everybody else wanted, was able to do, but no, your own vile racism. See, now you've got people that took advantage of all that. While you were distracted, always trying to fuck us over, guess what they were doing? They were doing the same with you. Yeah. Oh well. That's the way things be. Now all this is coming back to bite you in the ass in a big way. Those prophecies must be fulfilled. Yeah, it's beautiful. I tell you, it's beautiful. All right, so with that, I'm gonna call it. Yeah, your veterans getting arrested for protesting. Regardless of whatever rules, But they're showing you again what they really think of you. So what do you think about people saying, stay away from the military? A little too late, because you just know, all right, what they sneakily did back in this past December with the selective service. All right, you no longer are required to go down there and fill out the information. No, you're being done. It's being done automatically now, and that takes effect December of this year, 2026. So, yeah. It's going to be some people being, being pulled, kicking and screaming, all right? But in any case, yeah, that's all I had. Times that we're living in. Beautiful, I have to tell you. So with that, once again, I hope whoever views this video has been edified, and I'd like to remind you once again to remain circumspect out here. Keep your eyes and ears open. All right. Bad times are coming. All right, like I said, should be an interesting summer. So with that, until the next video, hey, shalom.